So I've been having this conversation with Jack May. We've been friends since 2014. He's come to my place a bunch of times for training camps and we've done work together. We've been to workshops. I've also recommended a lot of people to do work with him to improve their lives. And so we're having a conversation back and forward over Instagram about strong men make good times, and he's sort of putting out some of this message of like, you're enough just the way you are. And I don't like that message. It doesn't resonate with me. To me, most men are massively underachieving, and I don't like seeing that underachievement. And when we go from being massive underachievers physically and in business, when we go from that position to a position where we're achieving more physically, we're achieving more in business, in my experience, the spirit also rises of those people when they go through willingness and courage and they get to live life more on their own terms. To me, that's a good thing. And when people tend to get into wrapped up of self-acceptance and don't, you find just the way you are, maybe you don't do the work, and then you end up having to do more things that you don't want to do. You have less options. And in my experience, I don't like encouraging people in that direction. Now, we're getting into the nuances of this conversation. Today, we had a conversation about exactly this point. And my tangible just example to him in the text was like, well, if a man is just okay just the way he is he not better if he can carry a 20 kilogram weight up a hill? As a simple example of, is that man not more valuable than the man who can't get that 20 kilogram weight to the top of the hill, whether he lacks the will or he lacks the strength? Which man do you want in your village, in your tribe? Which one do you want to be? Do you want to be the one who can't get the 20 kilogram weight to the top of the hill, or do you want to be the one who can? And the goal with that example is to say, well, it's better if we can achieve. And so I had this conversation recently with Graham Tuttle, and we're talking about strong men make good times. And he came back to the thing that precedes that strong men make good times is hard times make strong men. And so my thesis is that if we engineer these hard times, then we make stronger men and we make better times. And that has been my experience. I went and engineered hard times for myself. I backpacked, I slept on floors, I had no money, I was alone socially, and I engineered those hard times for myself, and those hard times actually made me a better person. I'm very grateful for having lived through those challenging times. I invent hard experiences for myself. I didn't eat any food for 7 days, and I was squatting 20 rep max at the same time as I was not eating any food. I didn't last with the 20 rep squats, but I did last with the 7 days of no food. It wasn't a nice experience for me. I didn't get to a point where I felt amazing. Like a lot of fat people actually feel great once they fast for a while. Some leaner people do as well, but less likely. I was lean when I went into that fast, and I got very lean and I didn't feel good. It was good to experience what breath work is like 5 days into a fast, 6 days into a fast. It was good to experience that thing of, oh, I'd love to go to the fridge right now. No, you won't. You'll go in 5 days. I'd love to go to the fridge right now. No, you won't. You'll go in 4 days, 23 hours. And to have that mental experience over and over again, engineering these hard times, I believe, is one of the most important things that we can do. Jack brought to the table, what if people are already feeling overwhelmed? What if the person that you're challenging to do this 7-day fast, or to squat every day, or to start doing push-ups and muscle basics, what if that person already feels overwhelmed? What if they already lack a lot of self-belief and self-confidence? Maybe your approach is worse. It's making things worse for them because they already feel like they can't do it, and you're rubbing it in their face by challenging them that they feel even less capable. And there's probably a point to that. It made me think, well, what about those people? Is it just that, or they're just not destined to be very successful, and I only want to work with the ones who've got a strong enough part in themselves that wants to run through walls, that wants to go into battle? Maybe they're the only people that I get results with, but I don't think that's true. I think a lot of the people who I start with don't feel like they can run through a wall, and they don't have a lot of belief in themselves, but they overcome the overwhelm of underachieving by achieving, by doing things that they're proud of. And I love athletic success to be the foundation for uncommon success. You can go and get success in life, you can get success with your body. My experience is that this is a very successful path, It works. It's not for everybody, but it works. Could we have a gentler, more emotional side that allows people who are in an even worse place to on-ramp into this? Maybe, and that's part of the culture. Part of the question is like, what is the best culture? What is the culture that's going to create the best results? And we spoke about working in professional rugby. My experience there is that most of the men in professional rugby, they are actually enjoying their lives more. They're more confident. They're better people than the men that they grew up around. So they get to go into this elite environment where there's high expectations of them and they get rewarded for doing things well. Where other people who didn't quite make it in footy, they go into an environment where there's not such an incentive to turn up at your best. Often that the stereotype is that they become tradesmen. Men who don't make in rugby league are more likely to become tradesmen than probably other men. When you become a tradesman, there's this culture of, Monday you overcome your hangover, Tuesday you start to feel okay, by Wednesday you're getting energized for the weekend, Thursday the weekend's almost here, then Friday is finally the day where you get to forget about who you are for a while and get into the booze. If that's the life that the footy player might be living versus the life that they are living of all these expectations, all this pressure, all this money, all these girls, from my experience, the high pressure environment with the girls, with the expectation of achievement, with the great physique, doing things that you're proud of, it's a better life. And so that is the environment that I am engineering with Uncommon Success. And that's the discussion that I've been having with Jack around men's work and what the role of a man is, what is a great man. And Brendan Savage actually joined the call. Brendan's been up on some of the highest glaciers. He sailed his boat up to the glacier and then scaled the glacier with great people. He's also skippered the Sydney to Hobart yacht race, which is known as one of the most challenging yacht races in the world. People come from all over the world to compete in this race. It's quite famous in Australia. He's been through all of these hard experiences, and he was sharing his thoughts around bringing some vulnerability to that conversation. He found that he's been able to connect better with his crew members by having some vulnerability, but then in the moment of the race, being extremely calm amongst the chaos and being able to control his emotions is really important. And then we spoke about the example of, well, if in that moment you have to be really calm and you just have to execute, is there another time where you can let that emotion go? And Brennan has found that through breath work and through other practice, he's been able to let that emotion go, and that's been really valuable for him. And Jack brought up Maoris going to war, and after their war, they would have to go to another place to let the emotion of the war go, to grieve the loss of their brothers and their friends, their tribesmen, before they could return to village life. They had to have that emotional cleansing. These are really important conversations to have. Like, how do we engineer these hard times? And then how do we decompress and debrief from these hard times? And alcohol probably has played that part in Western society for a period of time. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, depending on how it's used and who it's used by and what it's used for. That was the conversation today. So what does make a great man? What is the role of the man? How much can you control the environment was another key point of discussion. Should you try to control your environment? My contention is that great men will control their environment. They will endeavor to control their environment, and they will have the belief that they can control their environment. And men who don't endeavor to control their environment are not great men. So if you control your environment to the extent that you make sure that you have money, to the extent that you make sure that there's food on the table, you make sure that you are in the most secure position that you can be in for your family, for yourself, we should control our environment. Letting go of that control, like, well, maybe the economy's going to rain away from me, maybe my money's going to lose its value, maybe I can't build connections around the world to be able to be in the best position regardless of what happens. I don't see any value in that. If the control gets to a point where how far you take that control and what your definition of control is important. But to me, we have to go after it. Like, we have to go after creating the ultimate living environment for ourselves, for those that we care about. Ultimately, as a tribe, as a global tribe, and as a small tribe of Uncommon Success, it's in my interests that other people pursue the best for themselves. If I have hundreds of friends who have ranches around the world with animals on them, that they're strong people, their energy requirements of their location, their ranches are met, their protection requirements, that they're really well connected into their local environment, that they understand farming. If I have hundreds of friends who've made that decision and who've executed on those kinds of projects, then I'm in a better position. If I can be a part of them getting that, if maybe I can help to make more people aware that their property exists and they're able to make more money by people coming to visit that, then the people coming to visit obviously have chosen to go there because they want that kind of experience of an amazing training environment, great food, culture of success, culture of achievement. If I can support them to be financially successful in their village, then I'm going to have locations all around the world where I'm welcome or where I can make a contribution. That is what I'm doing. That's what I'm building with Uncommon Success, and that's what I'm building for everybody else. Everybody else within this community has exactly the same opportunity that I have of, if I've added value to other people's villages, if I've added value to other people's projects, then I'm in a stronger position for the future. I can speak to that person. It's the concept of networking. It's very important. Everyone says that it's not what you know, it's who you know. Well, it's both. When you know more and you know great people, then you're in a better position for the future. And so the part or the self, we discussed this concept of selves and parts, that within our psychology, we have the ability to be different people in different situations. You're not the same person when your child is born versus if you get attacked and you have to defend yourself life and death, or if you're playing a match of rugby, you're not the same person in that moment of conflict as you are when your first child is being born, or when you going into that very, very different environment. You're actually a different part, you're a different self. And so how much of a role does the Braveheart self play is what we were discussing as well. You have that side of you that will go to war and will fight and make sure that you continue to have your freedom, or that you continue to exist. How much of a role does that part play in the life of a great man? What other parts need to exist and how do they interact? My contention would be that for the majority of men, that Braveheart side of themselves has not been well nurtured, nourished, and given the opportunity to step forward. That the courage to launch a business, which really is the courage to control your environment, because you have more control over your environment when you have success in business. If you're able to add a lot of value to other people's lives in something that you control, then you have more control over your own future. So you have more to offer other people's lives when you have your own business, when you've built a service that adds value to the world. That's better than working for someone else. I mean, we all work for someone else. It's the nuances of the discussion, but if you work a job and you have a salary and you're just doing a set task for a set amount of money, then you don't have the same degree of control over your future. There's no exponential positive return on having a job. Where when you have a business, if you can serve one person, then you can figure out a model and you can go and serve 100 people or 1,000 people, or you can increase the investments that's required to get that service, and you can get life on your own terms. And I would argue that the vast majority of men are underserved by their Braveheart. They're underserved by their ability to get through brick walls, to get things done. That is the self, the part of the self that is able to develop the physical body. And that's why I start with athletic success, because if you can transform your body, then you can bring that same ability to get things done, to do tough things, and bring that to being successful and choosing to have money and choosing to have more control over your life. Now, I would argue that most men have a strong rejection of being successful athletically and being successful in terms of business and finances. Most men have a strong rejection of that. And so my core influence, my duty, my mission is to awaken and enliven that part of you that wants to be athletically successful and also that wants to be successful in business and finance, that wants to control the environment, that wants to have a bunch of sheep or a bunch of cattle, or however it is that you see yourself best able to prepare for the future. Maybe you don't think that you need to do any farming at all, and someone else is going to do the farming, whether that's coming through the supermarket or another model that you come up with. But there is a model of your future that you have, that you believe in, that gives you more control, more security than what you're doing right now. And my role is to help you to get to that. That's what I love doing. And so, I really enjoyed the discussion this morning, and I hope that you wrestle with these concepts for yourself. I definitely had a period of time where I felt like I was a bad person for being competitive. And so I actively became less competitive in sports and in life because I felt as though that had been engineered in me as a negative. And to some degree, we're all battling with this. We have within us the side that says, don't compete, don't achieve. As I embrace the decision to achieve, the decision to create, I have more to offer other people, and my life gets better. And so I would challenge you to look deep inside yourself of, what is it that saying to yourself, well, I don't need much money, is that an excuse for you not to become much? I don't need much money, therefore I don't need to be able to offer much value, therefore I don't have to train hard, I don't have to study, I don't have to do things that are uncomfortable, I don't have to learn to speak to camera or run events or create different types of content. I can just sit back, I can consume, I can have a job which is effectively living off a percentage of the profit of someone else's work. Someone else who's ambitious gives you the opportunity to have a job. Now, if your work is incentivized, then it's different. If you're putting everything into the role that you have, then it's different. But if you're just ticking a box, then someone else who's ambitious is providing for you. The modern way of looking at it is like you're being exploited. The opposite is true. You're living off someone else's ambition. Someone else who decided they were going to do the work no matter what is providing the opportunity for you to be mediocre and still survive. That's the opportunity that is created. If you're living on welfare, then it's people who decided to create and to be high achievers. They give a bunch of money to the government, which allows someone who's on welfare to continue to exist despite not adding value and not achieving what they want to achieve. Now, it's a big discussion of whether those people should be allowed to exist, to what level they should be allowed to exist. That's not really the question. The question is, could that person become an achiever? Could they add more value to the world if they were encouraged into that philosophy, into that living philosophy? And so that was the discussion. What is your living philosophy? Who is it that you're becoming? What value are you creating? Do you need to have more of that? I'm going to get this done no matter what. I'm going to run through the brick wall. I'm going to face my fear of getting on the sales call. I'm going to face my fear of speaking to camera. I'm going to face my fear of being a creator and not just being a consumer. Is that what you need? Or do you need more hugs? Do you need someone to really just sit down with you and say, yeah, gently, you have the potential and I'm here to support you through that journey if and when you're ready? Maybe that approach also has its place. Maybe having that time to break down and cry and let go of emotion is something that a lot of men are missing. I know for sure the Braveheart side is missing, and I'm open to that discussion and the experience around the emotional side and the gentler side. So this is the conversation. I'd love to know what comes up for you in listening to this. And if you do go through the long form of the conversation that we had, then I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. Ultimately, I want you to have a great life. I want you to be a great man. You need to define for yourself what that is. I hope this helped you.